You may have joyfully sung the whimsical verses of Pop Goes the Weasel during your childhood, but have you ever pondered the origins and deeper significance behind these seemingly nonsensical lyrics? Far from mere child's play, this rhyme harbours a hidden code rich with poignant meaning. Join me on a journey through history as we unravel the layers of its significance, revealing a tale that transcends the simplicity of its melody and words. Welcome back, Darklings. Before we unveil the secrets hidden within this rhyme, let's take a moment to refresh our memory of its lyrics. Half a pound of Tupenny Rice, half a pound of treacle, that's the way the money goes. Pop goes the weasel, up and down the city road, in and out the eagle, that's the way the money goes. Pop goes the weasel. Every night when I go out, the monkey's on the table, take a stick and knock it off. Pop goes the weasel, a penny for a spool of thread, a penny for a needle, that's the way the money goes. Pop goes the weasel, all around the Cobblers Bench, the monkey chased the weasel, the monkey thought 'twas all in fun. Pop goes the weasel. If you find this version of the rhyme different from what you recall from childhood, you're not alone. There exist numerous variations and lyrics, including a popular American rendition featuring a mulberry bush, a motif possibly borrowed from another nursery rhyme, "Here we go round the mulberry bush." The abundance of variations likely stems from the rhyme's apparent lack of coherence upon initial inspection. Its whimsical imagery appears tailored to entertain children, which naturally invites alterations since its meaning is elusive to begin with. However, there's a hidden code embedded within this rhyme, carrying a profound meaning we'll explore shortly. First, let's delve into the captivating origins of this rhyme. Although its lyrics surfaced in the 19th century, the melody that accompanies it traces its roots back much further. The earliest surviving sheet music dates back to the 1700s and was intended to accompany an English country dance. By 1850, Miller and Beecham of Baltimore published sheet music for Pop Goes the Weasel, marking the oldest surviving evidence that connects the title with the tune. Following this, Pop Goes the Weasel rapidly gained popularity as a social dance in England. This dance craze took centre stage in theatres and dance halls nationwide and was even performed at royal balls. But it appears this dance tune was purely instrumental, and it wasn't until around 1854 that the lyrics were introduced by members of the common public. This development likely arose because it was adopted and frequently played by street musicians. In 19th century London, street music thrived amidst a lack of laws or regulations governing its practice. This permissive environment led to the bustling streets being inundated with musicians playing an array of instruments throughout all hours of the day and night. These street musicians, belonging to the working class, faced financial hardship and were often perceived by society as no better than beggars. Amidst the chaotic noise of street music, organ grinders stood out as the most predominant performers, with reports suggesting there were over 1,000 playing in London at any given moment. And it was organ grinders in particular that were notorious for playing Pop Goes the Weasel. In 1855, an annual report from the National Society for Promoting the Education of the Poor criticised the song, suggesting it had senseless words. The report frequently referred to the song in a derogatory manner, describing it as contagious and pestilent. The report also highlighted the problem of schoolchildren spontaneously bursting into song upon hearing the organ grinders playing the tune. It was suggested that attempting to prevent children from singing along was futile, given the frequency with which they heard the tune being played. Instead, it proposed introducing more wholesome lyrics as an alternative to combat this perceived problem. These alternative lyrics obviously never caught on. So the origins of this rhyme's lyrics are firmly rooted in London's working-class street culture. But what is the underlying meaning? The phrase "Pop Goes the Weasel" may have once referenced a spinner's weasel, a historical yarn measuring device that emitted a distinctive pop sound when a set length of yarn was reached. However, delving deeper, the line takes on a whole new meaning within the context of the street language spoken by London's working class, Cockney rhyming slang. In the mid-19th century, life in London's East End was a paradox of bustling industry and dire poverty. Despite the city's industrial boom, a vast underclass struggled to survive amidst deplorable living conditions. Overflowing cesspits and contaminated water sources triggered devastating cholera epidemics and widespread tuberculosis. Residents endured a relentless struggle for survival, competing for scarce resources such as housing, work, and food. Unskilled labourers struggled to make ends meet, while women and children endured gruelling hours in factories or engaged in work from home, where they were paid per item produced, such as assembling matchstick boxes. But amidst this backdrop, residents of London's East End devised a sophisticated method of communication known as Cockney rhyming slang. It is this coded language that is believed to form the basis of the Pop Goes the Weasel lyrics. In rhyming slang, weasel is an abbreviation of weasel and stoat, meaning coat, while pop was a prevalent 19th century term for pawning possessions. Therefore, popping the weasel could symbolise pawning one's coat. For the majority of the working classes, pawning was simply a way of life, essential for meeting weekly expenses. Often, they resorted to using their Sunday best clothes as collateral. This routine involved pawning clothing on Mondays and reclaiming it on Saturdays after receiving wages, with the attire worn to religious services on Sundays before being pawned again the following day. The opening lines mention Tupenny Rice and treacle. In 19th century London, this may refer to the ingredients to make rice pudding, or it could mean rice milk, a cheap, simple dish made by boiling rice in skimmed milk, often sweetened with treacle. It was reminiscent of a thin, watery rice pudding. This inexpensive meal was commonly sold by street vendors, who would prepare it over a charcoal fire in a metal basin. The term tuppenny, meanwhile, is slang for 2 pennies. In that era, many impoverished individuals lacked adequate cooking facilities in their homes. Housing in London's East End often accommodated entire families in a single room, sometimes shared with anywhere up to 6 other families. Consequently, purchasing cheap meals and consuming them on the street was common practice. City Road, mentioned in the rhyme, traverses central London and was home to a significant pawnbroker's establishment during the 1850s, while the Eagle likely denotes a renowned pub in London, also situated on City Road. This East End tavern was a popular hub of entertainment and social gathering, described in an 1850 guidebook as a place of public entertainment, licensed for theatrical purposes, and frequented by the lower orders. The establishment featured an adjoining Grecian saloon, later transformed into the Grecian Theatre, hosting a diverse array of performances including singers, comedians, wrestling, operas, and circus acts, along with intriguing spectacles like The Beautiful Giraffe Girl. The original Eagle Tavern and Grecian Theatre have since been replaced by the Shoreditch Police Station and a new Eagle pub next to it. Today, the tavern proudly displays the lyrics from the Nursery rhyme on a plaque adorning its facade. The subsequent verse introduces the term monkey, which holds intriguing possibilities. In contemporary Cockney slang, monkey refers to a sum of £500, but historically it may have signified cash more broadly. Alternatively, it could be a reference to the organ grinders, renowned for their association with Pop Goes the Weasel, who often had monkeys as part of their performances. A monkey was also sailors' jargon in the 19th century for a keg or glazed jug used to store spirits. Indeed, the phrase sucking the monkey referred to the theft of alcohol by drinking liquor from a cask through a straw. Additionally, a stick was slang for a shot of alcohol, typically rum or brandy, while knock it off meant to knock it back, to drink it quickly. For working-class Victorians, life held few pleasures, but alcohol provided a temporary escape from harsh reality. Alcohol consumption was closely linked with poverty and became a focal point for philanthropists aiming to address social issues through advocacy for temperance and abstinence. This was in fact the fate of the Eagle Tavern, which was eventually purchased in 1882 by General William Booth of the Salvation Army. The following verse speaks of the purchase of thread and a needle, which could signify the necessity of repairing one's own garments in a time when new clothing was a luxury. Alternatively, it might allude to the purchase of tools for slop work, a type of sewing undertaken by countless women within their households, a laborious task that formed a crucial source of income for many families. This type of labour involved the production of men's shirts or garment sections that would later be sold at dressmakers' establishments. During peak demand periods, seamstresses endured gruelling 22-hour workdays and often worked for consecutive days without sleep for meagre wages, sometimes as little as 3 shirts for a penny. For many, there were simply not enough hours in the day to make a living. The reference to a cobbler's bench in the next verse hints at the necessity for shoe repairs. Shoes were a significant investment, often too costly to replace, leading to a reliance on repairs. Consequently, many children were forced to go barefoot, even in the harshest winter months. The imagery of the weasel being chased by the monkey perhaps symbolises an endless cycle of financial hardship, a culmination of the preceding verses, and underscores the constant pursuit of money. Taken as a whole, the song encapsulates the enduring hardships faced by the Victorian working class in London, weaving their struggles into a cohesive narrative. However, just when it seems all the pieces are falling into place, there is speculation that this rhyme holds an even deeper meaning. Historians have noted that the music of Pop Goes the Weasel shares similarities with songs from the early 17th century, suggesting it likely originated during this period. This takes us back to the reign of King James I, who was also James VI of Scotland. In 17th century Scottish dialect, weasel was associated with an unexplained ailment, believed to be caused by the animal's breath or hiss, characterised by symptoms of spitting and noises similar to those a weasel makes when cornered. Consequently, it became slang for an unpleasant-looking and ill-natured person. King James was generally unpopular with the public and reportedly had a speech impediment, often described as slobbering and spluttering. He also had thin features and red hair. These traits have led some to speculate that the weasel in the rhyme is a representation of James I. In the 1600s, rice was slang for potassium nitrate, and treacle referred to charcoal, two main ingredients of gunpowder. This suggests that the rhyme we know today might have originated from an earlier rhyme or tavern song referring to the gunpowder plot, in which Guy Fawkes and his co-conspirators attempted to blow up the Houses of Parliament and assassinate King James I. Seen in this light, Pop Goes the Weasel could be interpreted as a reference to the grim fate that would have befallen the king had the plot succeeded. But what do you think? Does this rhyme reflect the lives of those living in the East End of London during Victorian times? Or was it created earlier to mock King James I? Or perhaps you have your own interpretation? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and if your thirst for nursery rhyme origins still lingers, be sure to subscribe and explore the rest of my channel. See you in a future video.